What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're doing our yearly video of how to do custom career mode helmets in the new F1 game. This year it's 2019 and it's a bit more challenging than yesteryear's games. On screen now you can see we have a tweet I posted 9 PM, a few hours before the game actually came out, to be fair, which was quite a surprise. On screen now is actually the updated version since this tweet. Now I'm going to take you by step, a bit more in depth than the last few, because I know that's what you guys wanted. And for new people coming along trying to figure out how to do it, I can understand it can be quite difficult for that to happen. So I'm going to download a few things. First things first is going to be Winrar. All download links will be in the description and in the order that I downloaded them. That way it's easier for you. Most people have this. If you don't, pick your size, 64-bit or 32, and then just click on the link. Second one is Ego Erp Archiver, made by Ryder. Absolute godsend of a product. I'd suggest tipping him. If you don't want to do that, just hit no thanks. Take me to the downloads and hit this bottom one here, the 6.1 version, which is the latest version. Next one is the Intel TextureWorks plugin for Photoshop. Now this one is what you're going to need to make this work. Otherwise it'll basically just be a picture of a helmet, which is no good. If you're going to download this, take your time installing and stuff like that, but for sure you definitely need to get this one. Lastly, what you're going to need is the race department template for 2019 career mode, done by JB, and he did a fantastic job to get this out so quickly. Massive props to him. You want to hit download on that one. Now this next one is optional. You can either use a helmet you've downloaded before, or you want to download a brand new helmet. So the way to do that is just locate your way to the 2018 helmets, and say for example you wanted to use Lewis Hamilton's 2019 Monaco helmet. What you do is you just download that one, and once this is open you just crack this open. It's made by Nesty, so it'll be relatively easy. He's a cracking helmet designer. And you just drag the helmet D onto the desktop. So once you've downloaded that, you can open up the career helmet template, and what you're going to do is open up that and just drag the PSD file onto your desktop. So easy part's done. Let's get straight into Photoshop and work some magic. So one of the first few things that's really important before we continue is on the top here you can see I've got a tab that says 3D. You're going to need this for this to be able to work. If you don't have this, I run Photoshop CC. I recommend getting that. You can buy it through Adobe's website, or other ways I'm sure you can find it, wink wink, but I'm going to bypass that. So what you want to do is open up the 3D template that you downloaded before and you put on your desktop. And this is how you know if you have the right Photoshop. If you don't, you'll have a flat version of this. If you do have 3D version, once you use the move tool, you'll be able to move the helmet around and look in all of its glory. So this is, I believe it's Devon Butler's helmet, so we might as well just draw a dick on it and just leave it as that. So on the right hand side you can see we've got 6 layers, so all of them do different bits. This one does the visor strip, this one toggles the wing, and this one does the helmet. We're only going to need 3. So what you can do first off, you can open up helmet D, which brings us to this. So this is the paint for the helmet. So what you can do, if you want to use one you've downloaded, you're just going to go back to your desktop and you're going to open up the file that you downloaded, and go from there. Myself, I'm going to use one that I've made before that I want to be putting onto this game, so it'll be slightly different, but the principle is the same. You can follow along and do exactly as I do. So in my case, I want to be doing James Baldwin's helmet. That way I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, putting it in the game and then obviously getting it done for himself for the video. So what you're going to want to do before you start is down here underneath the text icon you've got a little pen tool. You want to click that, and what you want to do is just under the foam line that's at the bottom of the helmet, you're going to go just at the bottom of it, click to kind of make the line to form it up, and this is how you're going to get it almost spot on. It doesn't have to be perfect, just obviously as best as you can. Once you get to the end, just go around the top in a square. It doesn't matter how that looks. You want to join it up. Now what you're going to do is right click and it will say make selection. Just hit OK to that, And then on here, just under the move tool, you're going to have the rectangular marquee tool. You're going to right click on that, layer via cut. So what that does is it separates the two layers, so that way you can move it. So you're going to drag the top bit into the one we opened before, which houses the actual helmet paint file. So as you can see, it's a little bit big, doesn't really fit. So you're going to hit Control T, and it'll bring up these little markers here. So you're going to want to stretch it to the perfect size in the box and make it a fill. Now, that will make the helmet work here. So you go back onto the 3D version, you can see spot on. Some helmets may not be spot on depending on how much time was put into it. When I made this helmet, it was perfect. I made sure it was perfect in each and every way. So that one's now done, so you can leave that one alone. The next one to do will be the visor attachment. Now this one, difficulty that varies on what helmet you've got and how the creators made it. In this case, I made this rather simple, just a solid color with the Veloce logo in the center. So what you do is, say for example it's a shape very similar to the one we're using, you just cut around the shape. So let's just pretend for example this is the actual shape that I'd need to cut out, and just go from there. So once you've done that, same principle, right click, make selection, and then obviously right click, layer via cut. So you're going to drag this one into the one we just opened. Now there's a wireframe on this which helps, so if you open that up it will show you where you got aim for. So same again, just make sure it kind of fills either end. It doesn't matter where, for example, depending on your thing. Some you may have to dissect and do that way. So with this one, because it's a solid color, I can get away with filling in the rest of it with color. It won't make any difference to my one. Yours may be slightly different again, depending on how it's been made and stuff like that. But we'll go back to the helmet and you'll see that it hasn't changed. Now this sometimes happens. So what you do is you go over to here, you click on the career visor attachment or whatever part you're working on, and it'll disappear. You click back and boom, it'll be there. So sometimes that happens. You can see this one, I'm not quite happy with it. It's a little bit off to the right. So what we're going to go back onto it and we're going to move it a little bit up as well. Again, hasn't moved, so you click on it, click back, and it's moved. So sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But once you've done that, make sure you get rid of your wireframe, because that could be a real pain in your rear, you know, moving forward and stuff like that. If you have the UV overlay on, that's fine, it won't save. But if down here, if you have the wireframe on, which is green, you don't want that on there. Trust me, I made a mistake when I did my helmet. It's not good. So the third and final part, you're going to need the career helmet wing. So this is a little bit at the back. Now this one, I do recommend having the wireframe on, as it's essential. Now this is probably the most tedious one. Again, for the 100th time, this depends on how it was created. So in my case, I can just select all the parts of it, because it's all one solid color, and I made it rather well. If yours isn't like this, you'd have to go around with the pen tool and do it that way. I was a smart cookie when I made this helmet, and I'm able to do it a lot quicker than going around with the pen tool, which obviously works. So once you've done that, you can drag this around. You want to drag it into the fin. Now this is the second time I'm recording this. The first time I got it bang on first time, minus a little adjustment. So if I don't get it this time, I'm going to be rather annoyed at myself. So you're going to want to stretch it out to fit where the green lines are, and just make the most of it. Fill it out, and that looks pretty good. So we're going to go and have a look at the helmet and see how we're doing. So again, if you can't see it straight away, just click on the layer and remove it. And I believe yeah, it's just the angle of it. So that's perfect, spot on. Right, so that's done. The helmet's done in this phase of the helmet. So the painting's done. Once you're happy with it, you can go ahead and start saving your files. So you're going to go to, first one will be the helmet itself. You want to go File, Save As. Let's go to your desktop and let's say, for example, we're going to name it James Helmet. So the save type you're going to want to use is, scroll down, it'll be, usually it's the third one down, the Intel Texture Works, the one that we downloaded earlier. So you want to do that and hit save. and it'll come up with this. So the option you're going to want for texture type is color, and the compression is going to be BC1 sRGB, the second one down. That's all you need to change in this. The rest of it's same. So what you can do up here, you can hit save, and it'll prompt you to write a name in. I'd save it as helmet because it's easier. The same principle for the cars, but for argument's sake, because it's a helmet tutorial, we'll do that. And once you hit that, you can hit OK, and that'll go and save. Moving on to the other two, exact same thing. You can just save away. I'd say for this one, you'd name it as Visor, although it's not technically the Visor. It obviously is the same principle. BC1 sRGB, OK, and then of course for the wing, the exact same principle. Now what I do for my ones is I clear them up a little bit, just because I feel like it's a little bit nicer. So you can do the same, you don't have to, but I clear up mine before I save them. So it's preference, you don't have to do it. It adds more memory to the file, but at the same time I don't think it's that much of a big deal. So once you save that one, you're good to go, and you can close down all of these, including the 3D helmet, which you don't need no more. So in the description there'll be a link to a folder called SFC Files. Now this is rather important for yourself, so this is for a bit more people who like a bit more detail on the helmets. So I'll explain what they do. You can skip forward if you don't want to know about this, but it's worth understanding, especially if you want to design your helmet and get the best out of it. So you're going to open all three of these. You're going to want to tick load transparency as alpha, and then here we are. So what these do, these determine the finish of the helmet. So in my case, I've got a matte helmet, so this color is the code for a matte finish. If you wanted more of a shinier helmet, it's green, so this would be like what it would look like for like a normal looking helmet with a little bit of shine to it. So for argument's sake, James's helmet's got a bit of shine onto it. It's not quite matte, so we're going to use that. Traditionally, I think it's a little bit darker than this, but we're going to go with this anyway, just in case I've changed it. So for this one, slightly different. You're going to Control Shift S, save. We'll save it as SFC, so that way we know. So we'll save it as James Helmet SFC. So this time it's going to be slightly different. So on the texture type, you want to hit color plus alpha. Like if you remember a few minutes ago, we ticked yes for alpha. This time you're going to want to do BC7, but it's not sRGB this time. It's linear, which is quite a different change to last time. Same again, if you hit save, you can just save it as a Helmet SFC template and be able to work from there. Hit OK, and that will save onto your desktop. Same as the other ones. You want to hit Control SC, rinse and repeat the process. Rather straightforward. You know, just make sure you save them to the right place and save them just so you know which one's which, so that way you won't get confused in the future doing anything like that. So once they're all saved, you're ready to get out of Photoshop. You've done well. If you made it up to this point, congratulations, we're nearly there. It's nearly time to put it in the game. So now you have all 6 of your files. You're going to open Ego ERP Archive we had open earlier. Now this takes a bit of concentration, because when you first start doing it, it's quite difficult. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit open, and you're going to find your F1 2019 game. Now it's in the Steam file, apps, and then common, but that's depending on where you have it. Mine's in my D drive rather than my C drive. That way it frees up more space. So once you open that, you're going to go to 2019 asset groups, animation package, and then scenes, followed by in-car driver. Now if you want to do an F2 helmet, you'd have to go 2018 and then save it that way. For 2019, it's this way. It's different, which is kind of nice. You can't have both at the same time. You can only have one. But so if you want an F2 helmet, it would be in the 2018, and if you'd want a 2019 helmet, it would be in here. There's not much difference, although sometimes there would be a little bit of issues with the rendering of the helmets. But that's what you do. Go into 2019 for F1, and obviously hit F1 instead of classics. Now we're going to do it a slightly different way. Usually we use com, but they're not really accessible at the moment. So you're going to go all the way down till you find Gen 19, which is this. You'll have more of a colourful one. You'll have one that looks a bit more like this. But for myself, because I've already done this, it's going to go in as it looks. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to helmet So once you've got this on your screen, you're going to go textures, import, and you're going to go to your file. So this one was the helmet file. So you're going to hit double click the helmet, go back to your Formula 1 2019 folder. This time, instead of going asset groups, you can go character package, drivers, mail, and then this as well, the helmet to base. You're going to scroll all the way down until you find 19. I'm going to double click that and then hit save. It will ask you if you want to replace it. You say yes, and boom. Same for the next 5 really. You're going to go import, find the correct one. In this case, the second one would be helmet SFC, and you want to go common, and once again 2019 character package, drivers, mail, find number 19, open the textures there and hit save. Now what you can do for myself, if you do this long enough, you'll get a shortcut in your so one thing you can do is, for me, in my quick access, I have a textures file which is there automatically. You can do this intentionally if you want. It's completely up to you. It does make everything a lot easier. So what I mean by that is, so when you import the wing, for example, you just hit textures, save, yes, and you're done. It saves a little bit of time, but overall not too much. So what you can do is just rinse and repeat a few other ones. I've already skipped ahead and popped them in there. So once you've done that, best way to check as well while you're doing this to make sure you've saved it correctly, which is one of the biggest issues, is if you click on, once you put it in, it will say DXT1 SRG BC1. Now that's quite hard to remember. So if you go up to another one, so let's say Gen 18 Helmet D, and as long as they say the same, you're spot on. Same for the S, as long as they say the same, you're laughing, just happy days. So what we want to do is hit file save. I'll ask you to overwrite that. Now once that's done, you can close this down and you're ready to get into the game and have a look and get your helmet ready to go. Okay guys, so now that you're in the game, first few things that you're going to want to do now, this is like a little trick that I've learned straight off the bat. Before you do anything else, you want to go into time trial, pick F1. It doesn't matter which car you use or what track you use, it makes no difference. But for myself, I've got like a little superstition with I have like a little set track and car just that it works, and so far everything's been fine. So again, pick any car you want, go into time trial. This way, I'm pretty sure it'll work for into the game modes, but this way it's a little bit simple. So what you're gonna, once you're straight on track, you can see that the helmet isn't right. It's not quite there. Now that's fine. The reason you wanted to do this is because once you go into the game and you load it up, when you go to your customization, it will load the helmet file that you've put into the game. If you don't do this beforehand, it will have the default one which is on there. So I'll show you exactly what I mean, which is actually pretty cool that this works. So you go to customization, go to your driver, and go to your helmet. You can see the helmet's there in all of its glory, but the colors aren't quite right. So the way to get this to work perfectly, you've got to do a few things to the colors and specific color order just to get it to work. So the first one what you're going to do is you're going to make it as red as possible. So you're going to go to change color. The first one, you're going to want to make it red. So the way you do that is move the saturation all the way down to the left hand side. Now while you're going through this, some of the colors may differ and stuff like that, but it really doesn't make much of a difference. So get it all the way to the red, and you want to get this roundabout in the middle, about halfway, which is, I'd say, about there. The second color, what you're going to want to do is make it green. So about there is about right. Move the saturation all the way to the green. It doesn't matter what colours the helmet is. This works for all colours of the helmet. You can see it's starting to get there a little bit. We'll move the green down a little bit. And then the third and final one, this one is going to be blue. So it's red, green and blue, typical colours, of course. Move the saturation all the way to the left. And there we go. The colours are bang on. There's a little strip above the veloce. That's just part of the helmet model itself. There's nothing we can do. And bang. Helmet's bang on right there. So we'll go have a look at it. We'll go into time trial and let's have a butchers. So now we are on track, and you can see the helmet is looking exactly as it should, which is obviously what we want. So I'm going to photo mode and have a look at it itself. So moving from the side, you can see the helmet is bang on, with the fin, with the visor and stuff like that, and you honestly couldn't get much closer to perfect. As I said, you can see there's like a little darker bit. That's the same with all helmets. There's nothing much we can really do about that, unfortunately. Just how the model is. Maybe in the future there'll be a model to fix or adjust that, but for now that's how it's going to be. But yep, as you can see, helmet is more or less perfect, to be fair. Came out really quickly. For yourselves, it may take a little longer to do this, maybe a bit more difficult, but yeah, other than that, is pretty much it, guys. That's how you get the helmet in career mode. If there's any of you that do have any issues, or you'd like to me explain a little bit more in depth in a private conversation, by all means, send me a DM on Twitter and I'll be able to help you as best as I can. If you do find you're struggling with mistakes or anything like that, just go back and just try and watch it a bit more intensely. I know it's easy to skim through and stuff like that, but I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. That's been it for me. Until next time,